At the Sacred Heart Orphanage, a grumpy old man named Alec Windsor pressures the director, ordering them to leave the land. However, the woman does not feel threatened and says that they will not leave under any circumstances, but the man claims that he has documents proving that the place already belongs to him. In addition, Alec explains that the group has only 48 hours to leave, otherwise a convoy of tractors will arrive to destroy the entire building. With his threat concluded, the old man throws the document on the ground and leaves. Outraged by the situation, the director begins to recite a kind of evil ritual, which generates a powerful storm in the skies. Despite this, nothing seems to happen, and finding her behavior extremely shameful, Alec mocks the woman and walks back toward the car. At that moment, the man feels something strange in his body, and before he can react, he falls lifeless to the ground, while his soul rises toward the heavens. Far away, a trio of boys ride their bikes, and after a few minutes, they arrive at an abandoned junkyard. While chatting, Jake reveals that he is almost finished decorating his house with Halloween items, but says that his family still needs to hang the themed lights. Upon hearing this, Bo and Carson realize that their friend still has a great fear of heights, and they begin to tease him. Indignant, Jake explains that the accident 6 years ago still causes him some fear, but the boys don't take it seriously and laugh at their friend. While walking through the junkyard, the young people come across a new Halloween store, and excitedly run to explore the place. Inside, the trio is impressed with the quality of the themed products and decide that this is where they will buy their costumes. However, as soon as he hears this plan, Carson says he needs to talk to Jake about an important matter and explains that he will not be participating in trick or treating because he believes they are too old for that. Upon hearing this, Jake gets angry, saying that they have always spent Halloween night together, but the boy tries to calm him down and reveals that they can go to a party with some high school students. However, the young man no longer wants to continue the conversation and leaves, followed by his friends. What the trio doesn't realize is that during the whole discussion, they are being watched by one of the dolls in the store, who follows the group with its eyes. Later, Jake arrives home and, noticing that his mother is helping his daughter put princess decorations in the garden, he becomes furious and asks why they are doing this. Trying to calm the situation, Sue explains that Joni, her youngest daughter, was excited to participate in this Halloween, but the boy does not accept this and insults the decorations. This causes the girl to run inside, and despite being outraged by her son's behavior, the woman runs to comfort Joni. At the same time, Frank approaches to talk to the young man, and Jake explains to his stepfather that this was a family tradition they had always followed. To calm him down, the man replies that maybe it's time to start a new tradition, and hands him some pink lights, asking the boy to help with the decorations. However, this only makes Jake even more furious, and after destroying part of the garden, he leaves to meet Carson at his house. As soon as he arrives, the young man is surprised by Kate, who asks him to help put up the Halloween decorations. Excited, Jake helps the girl, watching her intently, as he has strong feelings for her. Minutes later, the young man goes upstairs to meet Carson, and when asked about trick-or-treating, the boy says he still stands by his decision and will not participate. Indignant, Jake says they could at least do some other activity, and although he is not so excited about it, Carson replies that he will give his friend a chance. Hours later, the young man prepares his vampire costume when he is surprised by his half-sister, who says she is sorry that the boy lost his father to that terrible disease. In addition, the girl reveals that Sue explained that this is the reason why Jake is so angry and ignorant, and upon hearing this, the woman approaches to interrupt the conversation. This whole conversation leaves the young man devastated, and trying to change the subject, his mother asks if her son wants to go with them to the costume store. Jake then replies that he will not be trick-or-treating this year because his friends will not be accompanying him. Upon hearing this, Joni offers to go with him, but the boy merely mocks his stepsister, causing another disagreement. After this argument, Jake goes to the movies with Bo and Carson, where they watch the story of Alec Windsor, who became a famous urban legend in that region. At the end of the play, the boy asks his friends what they thought of the story, but Carson says he didn't like it, since it's just a story created to scare children. However, Jake explains that this man really existed and once owned more than half of the buildings in the city. At that moment, the trio sees Kate and her friend talking to Ray, one of the high school football players, and they are outraged, as they know he is insane. Without wasting any time, the young people go to talk to the pair, and Carson mentions to his sister about the Halloween party that will take place the following night, and she says he can't go. The boy then says that his sister won't be able to attend the party either, because their mother will be away on a business trip, so she will need to stay home with him. Upon hearing this, Jake wastes no time and says that Carson can sleep at his house for a few days. Excited, Kate thanks the boy for his help and leaves with her friend. Outraged by Jake's attitude, Carson scolds him, but the young man suggests something interesting, saying that they should spend the night locked in the Halloween store. Upon hearing this idea, Bo is outraged, and as they leave the cinema, he says he will not participate in this, as they could get in trouble with the police. Despite this, Jake and Carson do not allow the boy to refuse the plan, and realizing he has no choice, Bo accepts the idea. So, the young man prepares his things for the big night, and after looking at the photo taken with his father and friends last Halloween, Jake heads to Bo's house. While waiting at the door, the young man greets the boy's grandmother, who scares him by grabbing his arm and ordering him not to walk the streets late at night. At that moment, Bo appears, and together the teenagers head to the store, while dozens of young people walk around the neighborhood in search of candy. Halfway there, Carson meets up with his friends, and now that they are together, the trio goes to the Halloween store, where they prepare to break into the building. Minutes later, the store closes, and as soon as the employees turn off the lights and lock the doors, the young people come out of some trunks. As his friends get up, Bo sees a light running down one of the hallways and tells his friends, but Jake and Carson tease him. Suddenly, one of the scary toys activates, scaring Jake, and finding the situation funny, Carson starts making fun of his friend. However, as soon as he walks away from the pair, the young man ends up getting scared by a toy spider. Now that they are free to do whatever they want, the trio walks around the store while having fun with the Halloween products, wearing the costumes scattered around the displays. During their games, the lights in the store begin to flicker, and Carson says that because it is an old building, the wiring may be faulty. So, the young people try to remain calm, but when they turn around, they come across a doll standing in front of them, and they are confused because they don't remember moving it. Despite this, the trio decides to continue the night, and while reading some horror books, Jake finds the legend of Alec Windsor. When analyzing the photograph of the old orphanage, the boys recognize the chimneys of one of the city's factories and realize that this horror story originated right there in the region. At that moment, Jake's photograph falls out of the book, and realizing that their friend still misses those days, Bo and Carson try to console him, saying that it was one of the best Halloween nights they ever had. Suddenly, one of the horror animatronics is activated, and immediately afterwards, the lights go out permanently. Believing that something is wrong, Carson grabs his flashlight and says they need to find the circuit breakers. Elsewhere, Kate is getting ready to go to the Halloween party and is upset to find that her brother didn't even remember to bring his cell phone. Back at the theme store, the boys walk through the corridors in search of the power panel, but halfway there, Jake trips over a cleaning bucket, giving the trio a big scare. Annoyed, Bo and Carson scold the young man, and at that moment, the lights come back on. Despite being confused, the boys decide to resume their activities, and meanwhile, Kate arrives at Jake's house, asking Sue to give her brother his cell phone. However, the woman says that the young people are not there, as her son said they were going to sleep at Bo's house. Trying not to worry her, the young woman thanks her for her help and leaves. Without wasting any time, Kate runs to Bo's house, but the boy's grandmother says that no one else is home. Realizing that the trio lied about what they were going to do, she decides to check her cell phone. When she does so, she comes across a post by Jake, and when she notices that the teenagers are spending the night at the Halloween store, Kate becomes enraged and heads to the location to get them out of there. In the aisles, the young people play with a magic 8-ball, asking each other various questions as a form of teasing. At that moment, one of the animatronics responds to the boys, and confused, they decide to approach it. As soon as they face the creature, the trio discovers that it is Zoldrana, a fortune teller who answers any question with a yes or no. Curious, Bo and Jake ask if the city is haunted by a spirit, and if Alec Windsor's soul is wandering the area that night. Outraged by his friends' questions, Carson argues with them, but at that moment, the yes light comes on, and disbelieving, the boy asks if the ghost is looking for something. Again, Zoldrana answers yes, and concerned, Bo and Jake question what Alec wants to do. As soon as they ask this question, the clock in the room begins to chime, and a large cloud of smoke is released from the animatronics box, which falls toward the glass. Soon after, a light appears in the middle of the trio and heads toward one of the skeletons in the store. At that moment, it is revealed that this is none other than the soul of Alec Windsor, and now that he is free again, the spirit sets out to capture the young people, who run desperately. In a few seconds, Bo ends up being held by the creature, and to help his friend, Carson strikes the spirit's back with a plastic scythe. Thanks to this, the trio manages to get away from the monster and hide under one of the animatronics, while Alec finds something to defend himself with. Despite managing to lose the monster, Bo ends up making noise, allowing the creature to find them easily. Quickly, the young people split up in the corridors, and using a trick with mirrors, Jake catches Alec's attention, who tries to attack him. However, the insane monster only hits one of the mirrors, and taking advantage of the distraction, Carson strikes the ghost's head, which is removed from its body. This allows the boys to get away, and quickly, the spirit leaves the skeleton's body and sets off in search of a new host. In a panic, the young people lock themselves in the back of the store and use one of the pieces of furniture to block the door. At the same time, Kate arrives at the scene and receives a call from Sue, who asks if she knows where the boys are, as she is unable to reach any of them. Although she has no idea how to respond, Kate tries to keep the situation under control and says that everything is fine. This news calms Sue down, and after saying goodbye to her, the girl rushes off to find the teenagers. Realizing that the front doors are locked, Kate decides to sneak into the place through the roof and enters through the hatch, which was left open by the employees. At that moment, Carson and Jake start fighting, but the argument is interrupted by a noise that scares the trio. What they don't realize is that the sound is coming from Kate, who jumped into the store. Now that she has managed to get in, the young woman sets off in search of the trio, and when they hear Kate's calls, they decide to go out to find her. In a few seconds, they meet in the corridors, and now they need to find a way out. At the same time, Alec's spirit enters a new host and transforms into a huge evil teddy bear. On the other side of the store, the young people prepare to climb toward the hatch, and they will need to stack some objects so that Bo can reach the exit. When she sees the creature walking toward them, Kate is confused, and Jake reveals that they are trying to escape from that creature, which is possessed by Alec Windsor. In a panic, the young people try to climb the pile of objects to escape, but the bear manages to reach them and grabs Kate's legs, who screams in despair. Quickly, the girl frees herself with a gymnastic maneuver, and after reuniting, the trio uses toys to attack the creature, allowing Bo to climb down safely. The problem is that the group runs out of ammunition, and when she notices that Bo has been captured, Kate runs towards him. The young woman then performs a maneuver, delivering a powerful kick to the monster, allowing the group to escape. After reaching the staff room, the group blocks the door, and while everyone argues, Jake checks his haunted house book for information about the creature. Thanks to this, the young man discovers that these spirits are only capable of possessing people who are unconscious, and in order for them to escape, Bo suggests that they find the building's floor plan, so they can find another way out. At home, Sue talks to Frank about the situation, and believing that her son may be in danger, she decides to go out and look for him. Back in the Halloween storeroom, the group splits up to look for the floor plans, and after finding them, they notice that the room they're in has a basement hatch. Without wasting any time, Kate opens the passage so they can escape, and after going down, they come across a kind of abandoned underground facility. During their exploration, Bo finds some documents about the Sacred Heart Orphanage, along with a photograph identical to the one in Jake's book. At the same time, Kate finds a metal door at the end of the corridor, and upon opening it, she realizes she has found a possible exit. Meanwhile, in the staff room, the spirit finally manages to invade the place after taking possession of the body of one of the animatronics, which has a saw and a sledgehammer in place of hands. However, as soon as it approaches the hatch, the creature realizes that it will not be able to hold the rod to open it, and rebels, setting off in search of a different host. In the basement, the young people find a skull lying on the floor, and as they approach, they discover that it is possibly the skeleton of Alec Windsor, who was abandoned in the same place where the man was eliminated. At that moment, the creature possesses another animatronic and manages to reach the tunnels, where it begins to search for its targets. After a few minutes walking through that area, the group arrives at a huge cave, which has a kind of abandoned hut. Trying to understand how that building ended up there, the young people decide to enter the structure, where they find some of Alec Windsor's belongings, as well as a letter explaining his curse. The teenagers then discover that the only way to get rid of that haunting is to burn 3 items that belong to him and cast a spell that will allow them to finally be free from the threat. However, Kate has a strange feeling and says they should leave that place. As she walks to the door, the young woman sees the creature approaching them and screams in utter despair. Quickly, the group closes the cabin door and tries to find a way to confront the monster. The problem is that they can't think of a strategy in time, and as soon as they notice that the creature is destroying the roof, they decide to flee outside the building. During the escape, Bo stumbles and falls to the ground, surrounded by the creature. In a panic, the young people yell for their friend to run towards them, but the boy is not intimidated and orders Carson to throw the insecticide spray in his direction. Despite being confused, the teenager throws the item to Bo, who uses his friend's lighter to create an improvised flamethrower. Thanks to this, the creature's body is melted by the fire, causing Alec's soul to be expelled from the host and allowing the group to escape to safety. Furious at everything those young people have caused, the evil spirit decides to act more cautiously, and says that the night will end in a terrible way. At that moment, the creature emits a strong burst of light around it, and upon seeing the beam of light in the distance, Sue decides to drive towards the location. When they arrive at the center of the store, the young people notice that the pile of objects has been destroyed by the monster, so they can no longer escape that way. However, the group decides to stop running, and after reviewing the ritual to end the curse, they gather Alec's belongings so they can destroy them along with an offering of sentimental value. Without wasting any time, Kate hands her necklace to Jake, saying that it belonged to her grandmother and believing that it will be enough. After that, the group splits up to get some of the animatronics that have been possessed by the spirit, and at that moment, Alec manages to infiltrate one of the skeletons and steals the necklace from Jake's pocket. Realizing that his friend no longer has the object, Carson becomes furious and orders the young man to hand over his father's photograph. Despite wanting to end it all once and for all, Jake refuses to do so, and Carson begins to scold him, saying that the boy needs to learn to overcome his losses. Outraged by what he is hearing, the young man attacks his friend, and during the fight, Alec's spirit appears above them. The pair stop fighting, and Carson says he is tired of putting up with the immaturity of all his friends and decides to leave without them. However, the exit doors are blocked, and without the energy to continue with that situation, he sits down to calm down a little. At the same time, Bo and Jake go to place the photo on the altar where the ritual will be performed, but at that moment, the spirit possesses one of the jars with eyes and throws them on the floor. This causes Kate to slip and fall, and now that one of its victims is unconscious, the haunting can finally take possession of its first human being. Realizing that their friend has been caught by Alec, the young people are terrified, and after swallowing Jake's photograph, the monster steals the haunting book and runs away. At that moment, Carson returns, and upon noticing that his sister has been captured, he opens the box of his guitar that he had brought earlier. It is then revealed that the boy had been keeping a contraption to defend himself all along, and had made several modifications to make it even more powerful. In the center of the store, Alec brings all the Halloween dolls scattered around the place to life, creating a huge army of creatures to fight alongside him. In order to help Kate, Jake asks Carson to take care of the monsters, while he and Bo head towards the haunting to confront it. Bo quickly throws several balls at Alec to distract him, and Jake immediately positions a rope behind the creature to use it as a trap. At that moment, Carson runs out of ammunition and begins to be surrounded. At the same time, Bo is forced to run and hide, and outside, Sue arrives at the scene and tries to find a way in. Despite not wanting to climb that ladder, Jake faces his fear, and as soon as Bo wraps the rope around the creature's foot, he jumps toward the ground. This causes Alec to hang from the ceiling, and the other monsters stop moving. Now that they have a chance to reverse the curse, the trio rushes to set fire to the spirit's belongings, and as an offering, Jake throws in the horror book he got from his father before he passed away. Thanks to this, Alec is expelled from Kate's body, and a worried Jake rushes to check if his friend is okay. Upon regaining consciousness, the young woman thanks her friend for his help, and together the group celebrates their victory. Now that the situation is safe, the teenagers go outside, where Sue is extremely relieved to find out that they are okay. A year later, Jake says goodbye to Carson and Bo, who are going to a party while he goes trick-or-treating with his sister. Far away, Bo's grandmother performs a ritual in a strange place, and at that moment, it is revealed that the elderly woman is none other than the young girl who saw Alec lose his life in the past. Finally, the old woman finishes her spell, and as soon as she leaves, the skull on the table begins to glow, revealing that the great haunting of Alec Windsor's spirit is about to return. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.